Most people associate sexual energy with physical pleasure or reproduction, but beneath those surface-level ideas lies a vast, untapped force that fuels vitality, creativity, emotional depth, and spiritual growth. This energy isn't just biological, it's spiritual, electric, and deeply transformative. Cultures across history have understood this. Ancient Egyptian mysteries, tantric practices in India, and Taoist teachings from China all point to one core truth: sexual energy is sacred. It's a life force that, when consciously harnessed, becomes a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Yet in modern society, it has been distorted, suppressed, or exploited. The result? Disconnection from the body, from true intimacy, and from our own spiritual potential. This disconnection isn't accidental. Centuries of religious dogma and cultural conditioning taught people to fear or feel ashamed of their own sensual power. Control over sexual expression became a tool to suppress individuality and spiritual sovereignty. Many were conditioned to silence their desires, avoid vulnerability, and disconnect from their deepest truths. But energy doesn't disappear, it transforms. Repressed sexual energy turns inward as anxiety, frustration, creative blockages, and even physical illness. It's no coincidence that so many feel numb, unfulfilled, or lost. They've cut themselves off from the very source that was meant to ignite their inner fire. Reclaiming this energy doesn't require external approval or dramatic rituals. It begins with awareness. The first step is recognizing that your sexual energy is not dirty, shameful, or dangerous. It's intelligent. It wants to move, express, heal, and connect. Once acknowledged, it becomes a tool for conscious creation. Whether you're alone or in partnership, learning to work with this force can awaken dormant parts of your being. It unlocks emotional resilience, strengthens intuition, and grounds you in your body like never before. In this journey, you're not just recovering passion or intimacy, you're opening a portal to deeper healing and higher consciousness. The process starts within, and once activated, nothing remains the same. Sexual energy is not just a hormonal impulse or a fleeting sensation. It is the raw essence of life itself, a subtle, intelligent force that flows through every living being. Known by many names: Kundalini in yogic traditions, Qi in Chinese medicine, and Prana in Vedic philosophy. This energy is the core substance behind all creation, transformation, and expansion. Unlike common assumptions, sexual energy doesn't begin or end in the genitals. It originates in the root of your energetic system and has the potential to rise, activating every major energy center in your body. When properly cultivated, it moves upward through the spine, illuminating each chakra with vitality and clarity. This flow can awaken intuition, heighten awareness, and trigger deep emotional healing. But this current doesn't flow on its own. It responds to your attention, breath, and intention. When you live unconsciously, this energy remains trapped in the lower centers, used only for short-term gratification or suppressed by shame. The result is a life that feels unbalanced, disconnected, or creatively blocked. However, when awareness enters the picture, everything changes. Through conscious breathing, mindful movement, and emotional presence, sexual energy becomes fluid. It begins to circulate, nourish, and realign. You feel more grounded, more inspired, more alive. You may even notice changes in your physical health, emotional stability, and spiritual insight. This energy has structure. It interacts with your nervous system, your endocrine glands, and your emotional body. When blocked, it creates tension, fatigue, and disconnection. When open, it fuels joy, purpose, and magnetism. It influences how you relate, how you create, and how you evolve. Understanding sexual energy is not about becoming hypersexual. It's about becoming energetically literate. It's recognizing that you carry within you a force that can be chaotic or creative, destructive or divine, depending on how you engage with it. Learning to sense this energy is the first key. You may feel it as warmth, tingling, vibration, or deep emotion. Over time, you begin to guide it upward, inward, outward, transforming ordinary experiences into sacred encounters. This isn't abstract theory, it's embodied truth. And once you learn the language of this energy, your life begins to speak in a whole new frequency. Behind the silence surrounding sexuality, there are deep emotional wounds, often invisible but powerfully disruptive. Many people carry unhealed trauma in their bodies, rooted in early experiences of shame, rejection, abuse, or neglect. These wounds don't just affect relationships or physical intimacy. They shape how we feel about ourselves, our worth, and our capacity to love and connect. Sexual energy is sensitive. It thrives in openness, safety, and presence. When those conditions are absent, the energy contracts. Over time, this contraction becomes habitual, leading to emotional numbness, disconnection from pleasure, or the inability to trust. Some cope through avoidance, while others fall into cycles of compulsive behavior, seeking validation through intimacy without true connection. Cultural conditioning reinforces this pattern. From an early age, many are taught to suppress desire, associate it with guilt, or disconnect it from spirituality altogether. Messages like, sex is sinful, your body is wrong, or pleasure is dangerous, get internalized, creating shame loops that sabotage self-esteem. These beliefs are rarely questioned, yet they impact decisions, behaviors, and the ability to experience genuine intimacy. Energetically, these unresolved emotions form blockages in the lower chakras, the root, sacral, and solar plexus. These centers govern security, creativity, and personal power. When blocked, people may feel unstable, creatively stuck, or emotionally reactive. Physical symptoms can also emerge: pelvic tension, hormonal imbalances, or chronic fatigue. But wounds are not the end of the story. They are invitations. They show where the healing is needed, where reconnection must occur. The body remembers everything, and through presence, breath, and conscious attention, those memories can be rewritten, not with force, but with compassion. Healing sexual wounds is not about reliving trauma. It's about creating a new relationship with the body and its energy. It's about feeling safe again in your own skin, reclaiming parts of yourself that were silenced, and learning to express with clarity, strength, and freedom. This is not an easy path, but it's a necessary one. Without facing these shadows, spiritual expansion remains incomplete. True healing begins when we stop bypassing the pain and start listening to what it's trying to reveal. Healing through sexuality does not mean becoming more sexual, it means becoming more conscious. Conscious sexuality is the practice of being fully present with your body, your emotions, and your energy during moments of intimacy, whether alone or with a partner. It's a process of listening, allowing, and intentionally transforming energy that was once blocked or misused into something empowering and sacred. This begins with awareness. Most people rush through intimate experiences driven by impulse, distraction, or emotional hunger. In conscious sexuality, the pace slows, breath becomes a guide. Sensations are no longer means to an end. They are messages from the body, offering insight into what needs attention, love, or release. When presence meets intention, healing begins. Old emotional imprints stored in the body start to surface, not to overwhelm, but to be released. Pain, grief, guilt, or numbness may rise, but so do joy, peace, and deep clarity. Sexual energy, when held with care, has the power to cleanse what's been buried and reconnect you to your original essence. This path requires self-responsibility. It's not about performance or pleasing another. It's about honesty, acknowledging what you feel, what you need, and what you're healing. Through mindful touch, breathwork, or stillness, layers of emotional protection soften. You start to feel again, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Solo practices are just as powerful as shared experiences. Self-pleasure becomes an act of self-love rather than escape. With intention, you turn it into a ritual of connection with your energy field. You explore boundaries, sensations, and emotional layers that were once ignored or judged. In partnership, conscious sexuality becomes a sacred exchange. You witness and are witnessed. Trust replaces performance. Vulnerability deepens connection. There's no rush, no agenda, just presence and exploration. Through this space, the body opens and the heart follows. Healing happens not through control, but through surrender. This is not about technique or ideology. It's about embodying truth. When sexuality becomes conscious, it stops being a source of confusion or shame. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where your deepest wounds and highest aspirations meet and transform. Sexual energy holds immense potential, not only to heal, but to elevate consciousness. When cultivated with awareness, this force becomes a gateway to profound spiritual awakening. It opens the path beyond the physical body into expanded states of perception, unity, and inner stillness. At the core of this process is the movement of energy. In many spiritual traditions, awakening the Kundalini, a dormant current at the base of the spine, requires not force, but conscious activation. Sexual energy, when respected and guided, naturally initiates this awakening. As it rises, it passes through the chakras, unlocking insight, intuition, and deep emotional intelligence. In this process, ordinary sensations become extraordinary. An orgasm is no longer just a release. It's a shift in awareness, a moment where time dissolves and ego fades. With intention and control, that moment can be extended and transformed into a meditative state. You begin to witness yourself not just as a body, but as energy, alive, expansive, and connected to something greater. This isn't fantasy. It's a measurable experience. Heart rate slows, brainwave patterns shift, hormonal responses change. Conscious sexual experiences can induce similar effects to deep meditation, breathwork, or plant medicine journeys. But here, the medicine is within you. In these elevated states, insights arise. Limiting beliefs lose their grip. Emotional wounds no longer dominate the narrative. There's a direct experience of oneness between self and other, between mind and body, between the human and the divine. That unity is not conceptual. It's felt, lived, undeniable. However, accessing this gateway demands preparation. The body must be grounded. The nervous system must be calm. Emotional safety is essential. Without these foundations, energy can become overwhelming or destabilizing. That's why integrating spiritual and sexual practices must be done with care, not curiosity alone. Spiritual sexuality is not about escaping reality. It's about embodying it fully, becoming more present, more whole, more alive. It's not a shortcut to enlightenment, but a path that requires presence, discipline, and trust. When you honor sexual energy as sacred, it honors you in return, guiding you to levels of truth, love, and freedom that the mind alone could never reach. Awakening sexual energy is not just about what happens in intimate settings. Its true power unfolds when it becomes a part of your everyday experience. Integration means carrying the presence, vitality, and awareness sparked in sacred moments into how you move, speak, create, and relate. Sexual energy is creative energy. It fuels innovation, inspiration, and confidence. When it flows freely, you think more clearly, express yourself more boldly, and act with purpose. You're not waiting for motivation. You become the source of it. Small tasks feel less mechanical. Your body feels more alive. Even your interactions carry a different charge, grounded, magnetic, and authentic. This integration begins with the body. Movement helps energy circulate. Daily practices like yoga, walking, dancing, or breathwork help maintain flow. When energy is moving, emotions become easier to process. Stress dissolves more quickly, and the mind gains clarity. Attention is equally important. Where you focus, energy follows. Instead of letting desire scatter your thoughts, you can channel it into your work, art, or spiritual practice. You don't suppress or ignore it. You refine it. You train the energy to serve your highest values, not short-term impulses. Rituals help anchor this awareness. Intentional self-connection, even for a few minutes, rewires how you relate to your body and energy. You begin to listen more closely. You sense when you're drained, when you're open, and when you're resisting. This sensitivity leads to smarter choices about who you engage with, how you rest, and what environments support your growth. Boundaries also shift. As your energy becomes more coherent, you stop tolerating what drains or disrespects it. You choose relationships and situations that align with your integrity. You recognize that your energy is not to be wasted, it's to be honored and cultivated. Most importantly, you begin to live from the inside out. Instead of reacting to life, you respond from a place of inner fullness. Sexual energy no longer controls or confuses you. It informs, empowers, and supports your evolution. This is what integration looks like. Not dramatic changes, but consistent alignment. Moment by moment, you embody the truth that your energy is sacred. And in doing so, life begins to mirror that truth back to you. When sexual energy is healed, cultivated and integrated, its impact reaches far beyond personal growth. This energy, once understood as a sacred force, becomes a catalyst for collective transformation. It shifts how we relate, not just in intimacy, but as a society. Conscious individuals radiate a different frequency, and that frequency is contagious. Every healed relationship with sexual energy weakens the grip of generational shame, trauma, and repression. These patterns did not start with us. They've been passed down silently, reinforced by systems that fear empowerment, especially when it's embodied. But healing is never isolated. When one person reclaims this energy, it ripples into their family, partnerships, community, and beyond. Our collective imbalance around sexuality shows up everywhere: violence, control, disconnection, and consumerism. At its root, much of this chaos is a misuse or misunderstanding of power. Sexual energy, when unconscious, becomes manipulative or self-destructive. But when made conscious, it becomes creative, compassionate, and restorative. Imagine a culture where this energy is taught with respect instead of fear, where young people grow up understanding their bodies not as objects of shame, but as instruments of wisdom, where connection is built on presence, not performance, where vulnerability is not weakness, but a doorway to truth. This future is possible, but only if we choose it one by one. Living with this awareness also means becoming more responsible for how we affect others. Our energy doesn't stop at the edge of our skin. It speaks before words, influences space, and shapes relationships. As we become more sensitive, we stop leaking energy in ways that cause harm or confusion. We begin to create environments that feel safe, honest, and deeply nourishing. Sexual energy, in its highest form, becomes a prayer, a silent offering to life itself. It no longer needs to prove, perform, or possess. It simply radiates, inspires, and heals. This is the invitation to move from survival to embodiment, from wounding to wisdom, from separation to connection. When you transform your sexual energy, you're not just healing yourself, you're helping humanity remember what it means to live with sacred power, sacred pleasure, and sacred purpose. If this content made sense to you, don't stop here. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future content. Now, watch this next video where I'll show you another essential step to transform your reality. I'll see you there.